New Star Trek workplace comedy series in development from Lower Deck Star. During the Star Trek panel at San Diego Comic-Con, a new show billed as a workplace comedy was announced. Recent years have seen a steady stream of new Star Trek shows, including Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and the animated comedy Star Trek Lower Decks. While both Discovery and Lower Decks are ending, Strange New Worlds is continuing and will soon be joined by another series, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. That won't be the only new Star Trek show, however, as another new series has just been announced. At Paramount Plus' DCC panel for the Star Trek universe, for which Screen Rant was in attendance, Star Trek executive producer Alex Kurtzman announced the first live-action Star Trek comedy. As reported by The Hollywood Reporter, the new Star Trek show is workplace comedy in the vein of shows like The Office and Park and Recreation, written and produced by Star Trek Lower Decks star Tawny Newsome, Justin Simien, Dear White People, who moderated Star Trek's Hall H panel, and Alex Kurtzman. The comedy show is said to center on a group of Federation outsiders who work on a resort planet and whose daily exploits are being broadcast to the whole quadrant. Tawny Newsome's Star Trek career enters a new phase. Tawny Newsome joined the Star Trek universe as the voice of Ensign, now Lieutenant, Beckett Mariner in Star Trek Lower Decks. But after 5 seasons, Star Trek's first animated comedy is coming to an end at Paramount Plus. However, Alex Kurtzman was so impressed with Newsome's creativity, in-depth Star Trek canon knowledge, humor, and versatility that he tapped Tawny to become a writer on the next Star Trek series about to enter production, Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Kurtzman praised Newsome as a writer, calling her a stone-cold assassin. Even with Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Discovery wrapping up their runs on Paramount Plus, Tawny Newsome and Justin Simien's new workplace comedy continues the Alex Kurtzman-led expansion of what Star Trek can be. Star Trek Starfleet Academy is aimed at a young adult audience, and Star Trek is now journeying into live-action comedy after the success of the animated Lower Decks. For her part, Tawny Newsome loves the Star Trek universe, and she continues to put her stamp on it in unique ways. The teaser trailer for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 was screened at San Diego Comic-Con and was full of Easter eggs and blink and you'll miss it details. The 5th and final season of Star Trek Lower Decks will premiere on Paramount Plus with 2 episodes on Thursday, October 24. The Lower Decks teaser trailer paid a sly nod to this fact, with both a portentous voiceover promising one last everything and Lieutenant Beckett Mariner, Tawny Newsome, dismissing it immediately by stating the Lower Deckers aren't done voyaging. Screen Rant was there to see the trailer for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 screened during a panel discussion with stars Jack Quaid, Tawny Newsome, Noel Wells, and Jerry O'Connell, alongside executive producers Alex Kurtzman and Mike McMahon. An accompanying press release states that Season 5 will see the USS Cerritos' Lower Deckers deal with an Orion War, furious Klingons, diplomatic catastrophes, murder mysteries, and scariest of all, their own career aspirations. You can watch the first trailer for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 below, which contains several Easter eggs and hidden references. The opening of the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 trailer depicts highlights from the past 4 seasons projected onto the USS Cerritos, to the strains of James Horner. This is a direct lift from the teaser trailer that promoted Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country as One Last Adventure, which depicted images from Star Trek, the original series, and the previous 5 movies on the USS Enterprise before it warped out of shot. Mariner's Defiance makes this a wry tribute to the Star Trek VI teaser, setting the stage for a Lower Decks finale that will balance emotion with irreverent humor. Our first glimpse of the USS Cerritos in action finds them encountering a quantum fissure, which has an alternate version on the other side. This alternate reality USS Cerritos is commanded by Captain Becky Freeman. However, Mariner's adoption of her family name isn't the only difference on the alternate Cerritos. Boimler can be seen sporting a Will Riker beard while manning the helm, and Lieutenant Sam Rutherford, Eugene Cordero, has what looks like a partial Soong-style android skull, as well as a mostly cybernetic body. Meanwhile, LT Commander Shax's, Fred Tatasciore, is sporting an impressive Worf-style ponytail. The quantum fissure encountered by the USS Cerritos crew is very similar to the one encountered by Lieutenant Commander Worf, Michael Dorn, in Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 11, Parallels. A quantum fissure can be a keyhole through which to peer into other realities, such as the Captain Becky Freeman timeline seen in the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 trailer. Interestingly, Mariner states that this is the third such anomaly they've encountered in a month. The synopsis for Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 implies that this may be the season arc. At the end of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, Lieutenant Devanna Tendi, Noelle Wells, resigned her Starfleet commission to rejoin her Orion crime family. The Lower Decks Season 5 trailer sees Tendi and her sister Derica, Ariel Winter, aboard an Orion pirate ship. A brief glimpse of the vessel's exterior reveals that the Orions, like the ancient Bajorans, use solar sails to navigate the stars and presumably loot unsuspecting ships. Tendi is later seen joining an Orion landing party, about to breach the hull of their latest victims. It looks like Star Trek Lower Decks will be revisiting the infamous pleasure planet Risa in Season 5. One shot sees Commander Jack Ransom, Jerry O'Connell, tell Boimler they're on an undercover mission while wearing swim shorts and his best holiday shirt unbuttoned naturally. Later, Boimler, Ransom, and Billups are glimpsed looking worried in a tropical river, which looks very similar to those located on Risa, last seen in Star Trek Enterprise Season 2, Episode 7, The Seventh. Another brief moment from the trailer sees Mariner jamming with a musical instrument, to the distaste of her fellow lower deckers. On closer inspection, it bears a striking similarity to the Ressican flute owned by Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, in Star Trek The Next Generation. Because there's a voiceover of Mariner promising us this is the start and not the end, you can't hear if this definitely is a Ressican flute. However, it definitely looks a lot like Captain Picard's instrument of choice. The Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 trailer also depicts Mariner, Tendi, and Tlin get genetically altered to pass for orange-skinned aliens with antennae. Whether these aliens are an offshoot of the Andorians is unclear. However, Star Trek Enterprise previously introduced the Aener, a subspecies of Andorian that lived in the frozen northern wastes of the planet. The Aener recently had a resurgence courtesy of Star Trek Strange New Worlds hammer, Bruce Horak. If these orange-skinned aliens are another subspecies of Andorian, then they're clearly pre-warp, explaining why Tendi, Mariner, and Tlin received their alterations. Mariner's Klingon best friend, John Curry, is back in Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5. Judging by the trailer, Boimler and Mariner are on Konos to partake in several Klingon rituals, presumably as part of Maw's Stag Night. As per Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6, Episode 7, you are cordially invited. If that's the case, then Maw's future wife does not approve of him fraternizing with humans like Mariner. Ever the diplomat, Mariner asks her what crawled up her boob window and died, thus canonizing this fan description of Star Trek's female Klingon costumes. Boimler is seen plummeting down a ski run, out of control, at one point in the Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 trailer. It's unclear if this is on an alien planet or in the USS Cerritos' holodeck, but both can be fraught with danger. In Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1, Episode 14, Angel 1, a holodeck skiing trip to Danubian Alps ended in disaster when the youngsters were exposed to the Kwazulu-8 virus and spread it to the crew of the USS Enterprise D. If Boimler is skiing in the holodeck, then let's hope he's picked somewhere like the Swiss Alps instead, to avoid another Kwazulu outbreak.